was, cap circumvention or not. At least give us something. But earlier, ESPN reported that, hey, Kawhi, no wrongdoings. Him and the Clippers, hands clean, right? They were all good. Did a whole video about it earlier. Tied it into the Lakers because, again, Lakers are waiting around the rest of the league. Everyone's kind of waiting around, it seems like, for Kawhi. I don't know how true that is, but there have been reporting. Many of you have even suggested. I've talked about the potential of that. There was a lot of reporting that everyone was waiting around for LeBron, too, and then LeBron made his decision.
ESPN just dropped a bombshell, reporting that the Kawhi Leonard and Clippers investigation concluded with no wrongdoings. Hands clean, everyone's good. This isn't just a minor update. It was positioned as the final word, a year-long saga wrapped up. But let's be real, after all the whispers and the waiting, a nothing to see here outcome from a major outlet like ESPN immediately raises an eyebrow. Did they truly have insider information, or were they just the first to publicly guess the outcome? And what they just said proves exactly why this report itself was the first red flag.
Main reaction is that ends up following as you progress. But the NBA came out and was like, hey, all that ESPN noise, it's nonsense. Absolute hoopla, right? Nothing. We haven't came to our conclusion. ESPN is lying.
But here's what makes this even crazier. The NBA themselves, through spokesman Mike Bass, shot down ESPN's entire report, calling it nonsense and absolute hoopla. They flat out said, we haven't come to our conclusion. ESPN is lying. This isn't just a denial. It's a direct accusation of false reporting by one of the league's top media partners. Imagine the internal fallout from that kind of public rebuke. And that's not even the worst part. The league's direct statement reveals how much tension is bubbling beneath the surface. All right,
so the NBA spokesman, Mike Bass, ESPN articles regarding the Los Angeles Clippers investigation, for which the NBA declined to cooperate, contains numerous and significant inaccuracies. The results in this matter will be made clear once the investigation is concluded. So, according to the NBA themselves,
the NBA statement didn't pull any punches. ESPN articles regarding the Los Angeles Clippers investigation contain numerous and significant inaccuracies. The results in this matter will be made clear once the investigation is concluded. This isn't just about Kawhi or the Clippers. It's about the integrity of major sports reporting. When the league itself calls out a network for numerous and significant inaccuracies, it casts a shadow over the entire information pipeline. This directly contradicts the idea that the Clippers were cleared, raising the stakes considerably. But the real question is, why would ESPN risk their credibility like this?
The investigation is not concluded. It is not concluded, and essentially ESPN is just saying a bunch of stuff. It says contains numerous and significant inaccuracies. So
according to the NBA, the investigation isn't just not concluded, but ESPN's report contained numerous and significant inaccuracies. This is more than a simple clarification. It's a full-on public dispute. This kind of back and forth between the league and a major media partner is highly unusual and hints at deeper issues than just a premature report. It suggests a complete breakdown in communication or a deliberate attempt to push a narrative. And the implications for the Lakers, who have been hovering in the background, are enormous if this investigation shifts course again.
Situation. Again, you either have something or you don't. It's been a year. I understand you want to be thorough. I understand you want to figure this out. I understand you want to make sure that if whatever repercussions or whatever, but at some point, it's all right, come on, move on, right? At some point, it's you need to make it. You need to make a decision. You either have something.
What is the scenario? You either have something or you don't. It's been a year. While thoroughness is important, this dragging saga is causing unnecessary chaos. It's impacting team building, player decisions, and the overall perception of the league's ability to conclude major investigations efficiently. The longer this goes, the more speculative the rumors become, and the more questions arise about the NBA's process. And that leads directly to the core of the problem. This indecision affects more than just Kawhi and the Clippers.
And I think all of this is just, people are just kind of guessing, but it seems on reports that Kawhi may end up just having to pay a fine. He might have to pay, kind of some restitution thing, something like that.
Now, most people hear that and think, okay, so what happens next? But watch what happens next. On the flip side of the no wrongdoing report, there are whispers now that Kawhi might just face a fine or some restitution, not a contract void. This is a crucial distinction. A fine is a slap on the wrist. A voided contract is a potential earthquake, especially for a team like the Lakers. This shift from clear to minor penalty suggests the league is trying to find a middle ground, but it still leaves a huge cloud over everything. And this potential outcome changes the entire dynamic for several teams.
Restitution thing, something like that. I don't know. At this point, who knows? Originally the consensus was that, like, hey, Kawhi Leonard, his contract is going to get voided, and if his contract gets voided, then the Lakers become a huge factor in play. Right? That's why I've talked about this so much on the Lakers channel, because there is a chance, like, if Kawhi's contract gets voided, right?
The original consensus, the one that kept Lakers fans dreaming, was that Kawhi's contract might get voided. If that happened, the Lakers suddenly become a huge factor. Imagine Kawhi, a free agent again, staying in LA. That's why this entire investigation has been a focal point for the Lakers fan base. It's not just about punishment, it's about opportunity. The voided contract scenario would have completely reshaped the Western Conference. But the narrative is constantly shifting, which makes the next part even more bewildering.
Kawhi Leonard, we'll see. But the Clippers also ended up releasing a statement after the ESPN article, which I think is really odd.
Adding another layer of bizarre, the Clippers themselves released a statement after the ESPN article, which is incredibly odd. Think about it. Why would a team respond to a media report about an official investigation before the league itself makes a definitive announcement? This sequence of events alone screams desperation, or at the very least, a severe lack of coordination. It implies the Clippers took ESPN's report as gospel, which is a huge risk given the NBA's subsequent denial. This raises serious questions about who knew what and when.
Full statement from the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers introduced players, including Kawhi Leonard, to companies with which we had business relationships. Making introductions between players and team partners is both an ordinary practice by NBA teams and a common request of players and representatives. From there, Kawhi and his representatives handled their own negotiations. The Clippers did not negotiate or dictate the terms of Kawhi.
The Clippers statement went into detail, claiming they merely introduced players to companies with which we had business relationships, and that Kawhi handled their own negotiations. They explicitly stated the Clippers did not negotiate or dictate the terms of Kawhi's endorsement agreements, or determine what he would be paid. This is their legal defense laid bare, framing their actions as normal business practice rather than salary cap circumvention. They're painting a picture of innocence, but is it believable given the NBA's pushback? This public defense reveals a lot about their internal legal strategy.
And their ability to meet our business needs. We did not overpay any vendor or provide any sponsor, vendor, or business partner with discounts or other favorable terms in order to funnel money to Kawhi.
They continued, emphasizing they did not overpay any vendor or provide any sponsor, vendor, or business partner with discounts or other favorable terms in order to funnel money to Kawhi. This is the crux of the NBA's investigation. Whether the Clippers used third-party deals to illegally compensate Leonard. By explicitly denying this, the Clippers are directly refuting the core accusation. It's a bold stance, especially when the league is still actively investigating. It's almost like they were trying to get ahead of a decision they thought was coming.
In order to funnel money to Kawhi. The fact that the player has an endorsement relationship with the company that also does business with his team is not evidence of salary cap circumvention.
Clippers ended their statement by asserting, the fact that the player has an endorsement relationship with a company that also does business with his team is not evidence of salary cap circumvention. This is their legal argument in a nutshell. What they did was standard procedure, not an illegal workaround. They're trying to normalize a situation that the NBA clearly finds suspicious enough to investigate for a year. The problem is, the NBA doesn't seem to agree with their definition of evidence. And that's a massive disagreement.
Of salary cap circumvention. After nearly a year of scrutiny, the central fact remains true and unchanged. The Clippers did not funnel money to Kawhi Leonard, arrange for others to compensate him on our behalf, or otherwise provide him with undisclosed compensation outside of his NBA contract.
And finally, they state, after nearly a year of scrutiny, the central fact remains true and unchanged. The Clippers did not funnel money to Kawhi Leonard or otherwise provide him with undisclosed compensation outside of his NBA contract. This is a definitive denial of the entire premise of the investigation. They're essentially telling the NBA they're wasting their time. But here's the thing. If the NBA says the investigation is still ongoing and ESPN's report is inaccurate, then the Clippers' statement, based on that inaccurate report, is built on shaky ground. This is where the story gets really bizarre.
Why would ESPN know the result of the investigation before the Clippers? Right? Like, even if somebody leaked it, right? Wouldn't the first phone call
So here's the really odd part. Why would ESPN know the result of the investigation before the Clippers? Even if someone leaked it, wouldn't the first call from the league, after the legal team concluded, be directly to the team involved? It makes zero sense for the Clippers to learn their fate from a media report. This suggests a fundamental misunderstanding or miscommunication somewhere along the line. This isn't how official channels work, which points to a much bigger mess than anyone is letting on. This is where the narrative completely unravels.
So that would be the situation here, right? And so the fact that the Clippers responded to ESPN rather than the NBA making a statement, that's just really odd to me.
The fact that the Clippers responded to ESPN rather than waiting for an official NBA statement is just really odd to me. It's like the Clippers drank the Kool-Aid, believing ESPN's report was accurate, and felt compelled to issue a public defense based on what turned out to be false information. This isn't just a minor gaffe. It's a strategic misstep that reveals a team perhaps too eager to clear its name, or too confident in a premature leak. This misjudgment alone raises questions about their handling of the entire situation.
I don't understand how you do that. How do you make a statement on something that you don't know? What, you thought ESPN was leaking it to you? Wouldn't the NBA give you the call first? I don't know. It's really odd to me.
How do you make a statement on something you don't officially know? You'd imagine the NBA would give you the call first, right? This entire scenario is perplexing. It's either a colossal miscommunication, or someone was fed completely false information that the Clippers then acted upon. The lack of direct official communication before such a critical public statement indicates a deep flaw in the process, or a significant internal miscalculation. This entire situation is becoming a circus, and it's affecting the league's credibility.
From ESPN. I imagine you would know that ESPN isn't the one that gave you the information, right? I don't know. This whole situation is just, at this point, it's a mess. And again, I don't know if it's holding up stuff. At some point, even if it is, I imagine at some point, people are going to have to make a decision regardless. What if this drags on into the season?
This whole situation is just a mess. I don't know if it's holding up stuff, but at some point, people are going to have to make a decision regardless. What if this drags on into the season? It's already expected to go into training camp. The indecision and prolonged investigation create instability not just for Kawhi and the Clippers, but for other teams trying to make roster decisions. It's a domino effect that the NBA seems to be letting spiral. The league needs to bring this to a head, and soon, because the consequences are getting bigger.
Again, it's expected to go into training camp, but and look, if you're Toronto, do you even want Kawhi at that point? I mean, I imagine that they would, but I don't know, now you're integrating Kawhi, in the middle of training camp or at the end of training camp or, in preseason or during the season,
If you're Toronto, do you even want Kawhi at that point? If he's still under investigation or potentially suspended? Now you're integrating a star player in the middle or end of training camp, or even during the season. This impacts team chemistry, strategy, and overall readiness. The longer this goes on, the more collateral damage is inflicted on teams trying to prepare for a new season. The integrity of the competitive balance is at stake here, and the NBA is responsible for that. And that's why the urgency to resolve this is paramount.
Isn't at some point, the NBA's got to get this resolved by the end of the season. They have to.
At some point, the NBA has to get this resolved by the end of the season. They have to. This isn't just about one player or one team. It's about setting a precedent for how the league handles such serious investigations. Dragging it out indefinitely not only frustrates fans and teams, but also undermines the league's authority and efficiency. There has to be a definitive deadline for these matters. If not, what message does that send to every other franchise? And the consequences of further delay are severe.
Of the season. They have to. You have to. Because, again, you're hurting all these other teams. You're hurting teams like Toronto and stuff like that. And I know the NBA probably looks at it, and they should, hey, you made that decision, not us. Like, you knew that this investigation was going on and you thought you could be slick, which I get.
You're hurting all these other teams like Toronto. While the NBA might argue, you made that decision, not us. They can't ignore the widespread disruption. The league has a responsibility to maintain a clear and fair environment. Prolonging this investigation into training camp or the season creates unnecessary chaos, diverting attention from the actual basketball product. It's a self-inflicted wound that could easily be avoided with a decisive outcome. And that's the underlying sentiment boiling over here.
You're causing chaos for no reason. Or you really want if you're the NBA, you really want this to drag into the season and drag into training camp and drag into all the times when all of the conversation narrative is supposed to be everything else?
Are you, the NBA, really trying to cause chaos for no reason? Do you really want this to drag into the season, into training camp, when all the narrative should be about the games themselves? This is an organization that prides itself on image and control, yet they're allowing this prolonged uncertainty to dominate headlines during what should be a peak excitement period. This isn't just bad PR, it's actively harming the lead up to the next season. It's time for some serious clarity, and the answer needs to come soon.
What's going on, everyone? So this whole this Kawhi situation is getting ridiculous at this point. You either have something or you don't. You've spent a year investigating this. Like, at what point do you just go like, all right, we just don't got anything, right? Like, at what point do you just, pick a lane, make a decision?
Examining this key moment, this go-away situation is getting ridiculous at this point. You either have something or you don't. You've spent a year. This breakdown reveals crucial tactical insights.
Anything, and it's like, hey, at least be transparent and be like, hey, maybe you have a couple things, but it's not enough to really kind of punish. It's like, hey, we have a couple things that are strange, that are odd, but we can't really prove one way or another if this was, cap circumvention or not. At least give us something.
Examining this key moment, and it's like, hey, at least be transparent and be like, hey, maybe you have a couple of things, but it's not enough to. This breakdown reveals crucial tactical insights.
Would send Brandon Ingram and Grady Dick to the Los Angeles Clippers, which might take them out of like the Peyton Watson race, for example, which then now that makes the likelihood of...
Examining this key moment would send Brandon Ingram and Grady Dick to the Los Angeles Clippers, which might take them out of like the Peyton Watson. This breakdown reveals crucial tactical insights.
Peyton Watson race, for example, which then now that makes the likelihood of the Cleveland Cavaliers landing Peyton Watson. And like, again, you could have this whole chain reaction based on what happens with Kawhi. If Kawhi's contract gets bought out or not bought out, but voided.
Examining this key moment of the Cleveland Cavaliers landing Peyton Watson. And like, again, you could have this whole chain reaction based on Wah. This breakdown reveals crucial tactical insights.
You need to make it a decision. You either have something or you don't, right? Like, it's obnoxious at this point, right? And it's dragging things out. And it's like, and then in the end, you're going to end up having a situation like the ESPN. Like, that was a big thing. Like, if the ESPN thing was true.
Examining this key moment, it's obnoxious at this point, right? And it's dragging things out. It's like, and then in the end, this breakdown reveals crucial tactical insights.
ESPN thing was true, right? It's like, dude, you spent a year to go like, nah, he's good. Like, it's like, what took so long, right? Like, I understand you want to turn over every stone, but like, you got to have at least something that's like, all right.
Examining this key moment, right? It's like, dude, you spent a year to go like, nah, he's good. Like, it's like, what to? This breakdown reveals crucial tactical insights.
So much on the Lakers channel, because there is a chance, like, if Kawhi's contract gets voided, right, it makes sense for him to at least ride out this year in LA. You don't have to leave, you don't have to move or anything, and it's going to be so close to training camp. You might as well just kind of get this done, scrap it, and then just, ride it out this season and then make a decision next offseason, right? So Lakers were a big factor in play if his contract gets voided, which, I mean, it still might now at this point. So, Lakers could be back in play for...
Examining this key moment, it makes sense for him to at least ride out this year in LA. You don't have to leave, you don't have to move or anything. This breakdown reveals crucial tactical insights.